Today I want to talk about Clemson and why they are still a threat to win the national championship in 2020 and all that's coming up after the bumper.
Don't be cornering me. Hold up. Time. You gotta help me with that corner shit.
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always college football related, sports related. We have a good time. If I told you that you only get Travis Etienne, Trevor Lawrence to build your Clemson football roster, you would think you have a pretty good opportunity to win some games because you know who those two players are. Trevor Lawrence passed for over 3,200 yards last year and continued to show himself as a top quarterback in college football and perhaps the first overall draft pick in the 2021 NFL draft, which has basically been his moniker since the day he took over for Kelly Bryant in that 2018 season where Clemson runs the table, goes 15-0, hands Nick Saban the worst loss of his career in the national championship game. All while you got T. Higgins, you got Justin Ross. Now, there is no Justin Ross in 2020. He may be back after January. He might go for the NFL draft, but it's going to be a big loss for them. That said, Joe Nada is probably going to step up to be that third-headed monster in that three-headed monster that is complete with Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne. Etienne, though, might be the best player on that roster. 1,500 yards rushing last year. He's averaging better than 8 yards per carry for his career. And then behind him, he's got an all-world running back replacement, spellback, in DeMarcus Bowman. Their offensive line might need a little bit of help, but they're going to be so much better on the defensive line because Xavier Thomas is still there. KJ is still there. We understand that they're going back to a 4-3 after being able to use the destroyer of worlds, Isaiah Simmons, in all manner of roles from middle safety to strong safety to edge rusher to middle linebacker because he was just capable of doing anything you wanted on a football field. And Brent Venables has always been the secret ingredient to Clemson's dominance since Dabo Swinney has been head coach, right? No matter what the personnel looks like, Venables comes up with a way to maximize it. And that looks no different as the defensive line, like the 2018 team, may be the strongest unit on his 4-3. Now, you got to find a way to replace Tanner Muse, who had 4 interceptions last year. Of course, Isaiah Simmons led the team in tackles with 97, but there are plenty of guys that have it in them to play that role for them. I also think the other reason that you want to pick Clemson to make the college football playoff and win the national championship is the schedule. We all know that the ACC is a watered-down version of itself. It's not what it was in the 90s when it was Florida State, Virginia Tech, and then up comes North Carolina winning 11 games and 10 games with Dre Bly, Julius Peppers, and Mac Brown pulling the strings. Nor was it what it had been years ago when we all thought that, well, Florida State was going to be the team to rule the roost. Each year we count out the ACC. They always give us one team that is worthwhile. And it's been Clemson. It's been Florida State. It could be Miami. It could be North Carolina. It could be Virginia, who is the first big game on Clemson's schedule this year. They get Virginia at home, but they have to travel to Notre Dame on November 7th, play in South Bend. Be the first time that they traveled there since 1979. They won the last time that they were there, but I think more to the point here, we all expect that Notre Dame team to be in the running for the college football playoff if and when they are undefeated at the time of that game. And if that Notre Dame team is undefeated, beats Clemson, they're going to make the college football playoff. I think they could even take a loss because we think that much of Dabo Swinney and Clemson and what they've been able to do basically for the last 10 years. As a matter of fact, you got to go all the way back to Danny Ford 1981 before Dabo Swinney when they won a national championship. Now, what's fascinating is teams that haven't won a national championship at the turn of the century include Penn State, Georgia. I mean, we can keep going here. Oregon expects to be good, but I keep making fun of them. 1, because 2006 is yesterday on this channel. And 2, because when push comes to shove, they just can't get into the playoff, man. I mean, Arizona State pops up and beats you. Doesn't matter that you win the Pac-12. Doesn't matter that you win the Rose Bowl. If you don't lose to Auburn, you probably get in. You don't lose to Arizona State, you definitely get in. It's that simple. Clemson doesn't have any of those games. Like, they win those close games. The one where Bo Nix comes back to beat Oregon is the one where Clemson shuts down Sam Howell in North Carolina on a 2-point conversion to win it all. I applaud Mac Brown for making that choice, but it also speaks to just who Clemson is. When all the chips are in the table, as they say, all in, Clemson finds a way. Now, even against Ohio State in a game where they probably got outplayed, they found a way. And it's those finding a way moments that lead me to believe that Clemson is the one team among all these teams you can't count out. Because as good as Ohio State was last year, Chris Olave slips. Jeff Okudah's fumble it's called an incompletion, and on it goes. Right? You look at Oklahoma, runs into a buzzsaw in the college football playoff on general principle now. And if you're picking them to get back, it's hard to pick them to win it, especially in this year where you're breaking in a new starting quarterback. And that's even without the COVID really ruining everything that you know about college football and what it could be in 2020. It's also about continuity, right? Because what Clemson has is what, for the most part, Ohio State has. You lost a coordinator, but not really. Okay, in Kerry Combs, they get back a guy who knows how to recruit and develop defensive backs at Ohio State and wants to more or less keep what they got. You lost Jeff Scott to a head coaching job at South Florida, but Tony Elliott's been there forever, and he's going to be the offensive coordinator, and he's an outstanding coach, outstanding recruiter. Dabo Swinney continues to give Brent Venables the controls and be a really good grad assistant, which is how Nick Saban was able to build the Alabama dynasty. He would even say this about Kirby Smart. It's Kirby's defense. I just try to be a good grad assistant for him. And that's what Dabo's been able to do, and it allows him to do his job of being a CEO, head coach, and recruit like all get out. And I think that that's not a coincidence. I mean, Dabo Swinney wasn't going to even go into coaching when Gene Stallings said, "You're going to be a grad assistant for me," back in the early 90s. And then he worked his way up, got a job where he thought he was going to get fired as the interim head coach at Clemson, turned that into a job that he kept, and then announced himself over Oklahoma's dead body in the Russell Athletic Bowl, what I affectionately call the Sweatpants Bowl. So knowing you have all those pieces back, knowing that you have brought in another top 5 recruiting class, and that Bryan Bresee is, to Dabo Swinney's understanding, Christian Wilkins with stronger hands, more violent hands, and a nastier get-off. That's a scary thing for me, right? Also add to that, Bresee's coming in as a true freshman, early enrollee, about 290 pounds, bench presses 455, squats 645, can actually run the football and did in the All-America Bowl. You know what you're getting in him, and you also know what you're getting in the backup quarterback to Trevor Lawrence in DJ Uyunglele, right? We all thought that maybe losing Chase Bryce would make them vulnerable. No, they signed the number 2 quarterback in the 2020 class, who's 6'5", 253, with like a 95-mile-an-hour fastball. Plays the game like Jameis Winston, moves around, can chuck it from all kinds of angles. There's lots to like about Clemson. There's even more to like about their schedule. So if I were you, I would put them into the college football playoff, and you might think of them upsetting an Ohio State or an Alabama or whatever that 4th team is that gets in when we talk about playing for a national championship, because take a look at the Fiesta Bowl. All right, that's it for me. Doses.